Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis Legacy. Sorority secrets of the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis Legacy in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. One of my viewers wanted me to talk about the hazing that goes on with some colleges, fraternities, and sororities. Now, when it comes to these college fraternities and sororities, there are some that participate in these so-called hazing rituals where they look to go out here and put their pledges through a series of embarrassing events, or look to go out and look to attack their pledges by abusing them for not following their rules. And these policies basically are an unwritten social rule as related to the charters of these organizations, and these rituals of hazing are considered to be a tradition as related to that fraternity or sorority remaining on campus, and these unwritten social rules are supposed to be enforced by the members of the fraternity or sorority. And as they look to enforce these rules, what they want to do is say that they want to, again, see who fits into their organization by having the character to go through all of these rituals and be able to stand at the end of those rituals to be an official member of that organization. Now, when it comes to these colleges and universities and hazing, the reason why it goes on is because many of the administrators and staff there were former members of that fraternity and sorority, and because they wound up getting their jobs because of their connections as related to that fraternity or sorority, many of these individuals create a covert contract with the future members of that fraternity and sorority, where they will look the other way as related to these hazing incidents, and look the other way because when it comes to these organizations, they are basically, again, filled with a lot of rich members and alumni, and they want to keep the funding coming into that school, so they will look the other way as related to these hazing incidents, no matter how extreme they get. And in some cases, when there is a tragedy that goes on, what they will look to do is try to cover up the situation and possibly sacrifice an individual, but keep the culture going on that allows that whole situation to continue to go on at these schools. So this has been going on at these schools possibly for over the centuries as related to the establishment of these universities, and it's a part of the culture of these schools, and it's a part of the culture of these schools as related to their so-called tradition. But that so-called tradition, as I see it as related to these hazing situations, really isn't about developing the discipline and resolve of an individual to see if they are going to fit into that organization. No, in the case of these hazing situations, what is going on here as related to a lot of them is it's just a lot of individuals who want to enter these individuals who pledge their organization into the secret world, and as they enter their pledges into the secret world that I talk about in my books, The Man Crisis and The Woman Crisis, they enter them into a rose-colored reality where these individuals look to go out here and maintain their power over these individuals and get their power over these individuals by establishing a covert contract where they look to attach an emotional hose to them. And as they create this covert contract where this person will submit to their authority, what they hope to do is be able to get a contract where they can get this person to allow themselves to be abused in the hopes that this will, if they go out here and subject themselves to this abuse, they will be accepted as a member of their so-called society. And as they are accepted into their society, what happens is that this individual winds up sacrificing their intangibles to this other individual through these hazing rituals. They wind up sacrificing their dignity, their self-respect, and their self-worth, hoping that once they assimilate into this organization, they will wind up becoming a member of a group, and a member of a group that will receive benefits from society, whether it be leads on jobs, whether it be connections with business contacts. They believe that there is some sort of reward for them going through these rituals. They believe that if they go out here and participate in these rituals, they will basically get some sort of benefit at the end of the situation. But what happens to a lot of these people who go to these college fraternities and sororities is that they wind up surrendering their intangibles of character and usually wind up losing themselves, all in an effort to fit into this so-called society where these people look to get power over them. And what usually happens here in the case of these guys who participate in these hazings, usually these guys are not really men who are fit for leadership. They're not fit for leadership at all. No, like in an old video that I watched from YouTuber Dan Freeman, he said that hazing is for bitches in an old video, and basically made that in connection with an incident that happened at FAMU where somebody died. And what happens to people, again, who become a part of these fraternities and sororities is that you've got a lot of people who never really had power in their life. And these beta males and feminist indoctrinated women, because they've never really had power in their life, once they wind up in a position of power as related to being a part of this fraternity and sorority, what happens is that they get high on that power. And as they get high on that power in the secret world, what happens is that these people basically look to go out here and humiliate people and make them suffer the way they did. And as they look to humiliate people and make them suffer the way they did, this is where they look to escalate their behavior as related to these hazing rituals. And they escalate things to an extreme because they basically want to, again, get their jollies from seeing somebody being broken down and humiliated. I mean, it's no different than a person who I've talked about as related to the historical Men in Crisis series, like many of these serial killers and sex offenders. These individuals basically are getting pleasure from seeing somebody broken down and humiliated and seeing somebody degrade themselves. And what they do is leverage being a part of their organization for a person's dignity and their self-respect. They do this deliberately because what they want to do is get power over someone and hope to use that power to, again, get pleasure from seeing this person humiliate themselves, all to be a part of a group. And basically, it's something that comes out of the cliques of high school. Again, this is very antisocial behavior all around, whether it be male or female. This is very antisocial behavior as related to these hazings. And what they want to do is make you believe that this is part of a tradition, and that's not a part of any tradition at all. No, the tradition, what they want to participate in is abusing a person, and no person should have to sacrifice their intangibles to be part of a group, because if you have to sacrifice your intangibles to be part of a group, that group does not really respect you as a person. No, that group does not respect you as a person, and while they may make promises of perks and benefits for being a member of that group, what they really want to do is, again, with these covert contracts, is as related to you being a part of their group, is basically buy your silence so that they can continue abusing other people. They want to buy your silence so that they can continue abusing, humiliating, and degrading other people. And they want to do this because they want to get pleasure, continue getting pleasure by using these rituals, one, as leverage to be able to control and humiliate other people, and two, they want to be able to continue maintaining their power base where they can continue to have opportunities to break down and humiliate people. That's what the whole hazing culture is about. And again, this is allowed to go on unofficially at some colleges because, again, many of the members of that fraternity and sorority are working at that school, and that's possibly why some of these individuals, if you can find a way to connect them to these cases, you can sue them for liability. But on a lot of cases, it's hard to do because the fraternities and sororities have unofficial connections as related to these unwritten social rules. Yes, they may put it in their charters on paper passively that they don't tolerate hazing, but in aggressively what they do is allow it to go on. Allow it to go on because a lot of the people who are prominent members of the college community, a lot of the alumni basically are part of these organizations, and these colleges don't want to lose that funding. And because they don't want to lose that funding, what they do is basically, again, give a wink and a nod to these fraternities and sororities, because many of the members there are some of the wealthiest individuals in the world. Many of these fraternities and sororities have a lot of millionaires and billionaires, not to mention politicians, who basically can influence the culture of that school, and they don't want to alienate those people at those levels by not maintaining the so-called tradition. But if people truly cared about people, they wouldn't look to put them through this crap test. And that's basically what hazing is a crap test, similar to what a female does, where she gives you an absurd demand and then wants to see if you'll fulfill that absurd demand. And what happens is that these individuals, because they value being a part of that group, they give into these absurd demands. And as they give into these absurd demands, they basically, again, sacrifice their intangibles at the altar of these organizations, basically looking to get these letters to become idols for themselves. And again, being a part of these organizations in and of itself is idolatry. And some of these organizations have connections to a lot of false gods and demons like Molech. So these organizations, again, are not about building up a healthy man as related to building his discipline and character. That's what people think it is about as related to the surface. No, it's not about building healthy discipline and resolve. It's all about going out here and, again, breaking down someone and not building them into any sort of man of character, because building a man of character basically makes it where that man is stronger and basically, again, understands how to take his own personal power, not look to submit to someone and give them your power. That's what these hazing situations are about, a man giving away his power. And that's why it's such an empty situation, like Spike Lee presented in his movie School Days with the character of Half Pint, who basically, again, looked to sacrifice his dignity as related to things in an effort to try to please the members of G Phi G. And as he looked to please the members of G Phi G, they basically showed how little respect they had for each other, or even in the case of Big Brother Dean Almighty, who had no respect for his girl, that he basically sacrificed his girl because his girl wasn't a woman he loved. No, she was an attachment to him, and as an attachment to him, he sacrificed her dignity and self-respect as part of the whole fraternity ritual, and again, showed how little character these men had, because, again, they did not respect each other. There was no real respect for each other. They were all about maintaining a tradition that wasn't building up men of character, at all, because it was, again, about degrading each other. And that's the whole thing that these hazing traditions are all about: devaluing people, degrading people, disrespecting people, and trying to make it look like you're doing this to build up, again, this character and resolve. But a man's character and resolve is about how he can stand alone and the principles he will stand on alone. That is what makes a man, not looking to fit in with the group or fit himself into boxes to be accepted by others, but by commanding respect, by having the resolve to maintain his honor and integrity. And that's something that a man has to do. But a lot of guys, they think, oh, if I be a part of this group, it'll make me into a better man. But what happens is that in a lot of cases, it doesn't make a better man. It just makes a man in crisis who basically hides all of his indiscretions in the secret world. And as he hides his indiscretions in the secret world about being humiliated and sacrificing his dignity, he winds up, again, being a broken man. And this broken man isn't as strong as people think. no, he's basically a weak man because he's got to stand with other men and stand with other men like a coward. And again, it's just a group of cowards with a bunch of letters behind their names. And this group of cowards with a bunch of letters behind their names, yeah, they may have protection in a group, but if you had to stand them up on their own, they wouldn't be able to stand as men. And that's where these whole, again, fraternity and sorority, these men and women, really, they were presented to us as the ultimate ideal of who to be a part of society. They aren't an ideal as related to real people, and they're not an ideal anyone should aspire to when they try to put people through these hazing rituals, because these hazing rituals are not about building character. They're about destroying a person and making them into someone that they won't fit, that they hope to fit into their box and hope to manipulate and control. And that really runs counter and diametrically opposed to this country, which says everybody has a right to be who they are and have the freedom to be who they are. And that's the sad part as related to fraternities and sororities and the hazing rituals that go on in these places. People think that they're coming up socially, but they're actually going down morally. And as they go down morally, what happens is we think that we're building people of character, but we're building people who have no character. And their moral position is basically looking to cover for each other and make it look like they're doing something to make society better. But it's clear to me from what I'm seeing from some of these members, they are not really the best people, and basically they are people who basically wind up on the road to becoming more men and women in crisis. Now, this was a video requested by a viewer, and if you want to request a video, you can send a donation for a minimum of $15 to the Cash App or the PayPal by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to learn why men and women like this have to haze people and want to have this kind of power, you can pick up my books, The Man Crisis and The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com on paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis and The Woman Crisis, along with my Black sorority novel, The Thetas, on Amazon.com by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available on paperback and Kindle Unlimited, ISIS, Imitation of Life. The Goddess Next Door helps a young black girl overcome racism during the era of Jim Crow in this Golden Age ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS, Imitation of Life in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.